Hello everybody, I'm Mario here once again, and I'm from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos of course, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of NES remakes for the Nintendo Wii U eShop download version. So, all to be for this specific matter, Nintendo Wii U eShop downloads, to be more specifically. So yes, it has been a couple of days since actually coming back into this game to be more precisely than that, because even then though, you remember how last time in this particular run-through of the forms of NES remakes is that I've pretty much gone through every single bonus stage as long as I possibly could, for able to actually complete the entirety of the main game. And I promise you guys that since originally I was going to be doing this until when it gets to the 12th of June, around the same day as Nintendo's E3 this year, but I decided to actually push it forward a bit so that I need to actually just get this game finished before we're able to actually let Daffy Duck decide to able to go back onto Sonic Unleashed eventually on the Xbox 360/PlayStation 3 before he tackles through any DLC stages on that particular version of the game. So yeah, so today for this episode, especially at this point in time when we get to at the very end of April, is the fact that we're going to be going through every single stages again, but this time we're going to be going through these Rainbow Stars run-throughs, because even then, I've already collected some of these Rainbow Stars run-throughs ever since during the likes of Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. and even Pinball. So even then though, that because of these games are ridiculously short by the looks of all things, because of the stages and mounts that you're actually going to be tackling through, like, you know, Donkey Kong actually only has like 7 stages, and same applies for Donkey Kong Jr. as well, and Pinball on the other hand only has like 6 of them. So even then though, that this makes those games entirely easy to go through, especially noticeable by the forms of the, you know, shorter amount of levels that you have to go through. So anyways, since this is going to be a post-commentary, if you probably couldn't tell already, because even then though, at the moment I'm actually going to be going through some of these Mario Bros stages. Even then, we've already accomplished that game before, but even then though, I wasn't really got into the 100% Rainbow Stars run-through on that particular game, because there are a few stages I actually missed out on the forms of Rainbow Stars run-through. So I thought to myself, I'm actually show you guys how to get some of these Rainbow Stars onto some of these stages in the forms of any other NES games in the entirety of NES remakes. Especially noticeable how the fact that if you watch the my main playthrough of the game, that I'm pretty sure I've got every single some of these Rainbow Stars in some of the stages in the forms of, well, I've already got, you know, all of the Rainbow Stars in the, you know, Donkey Kong Jr. and Pinball, but that's about it, obviously, because there are 3 NES games that I'm pretty sure that I've pretty much 100% on it, so even then, that I'm as well able to actually say so. So, I'm probably, you know, probably not going to talk anything too much about NES remakes, honestly, because I've already talked about this quite enough by the forms of how the fact, by the forms of previous selection of weeks. And I'm going to tell you right about now, when it comes to the proceeding things by the forms of the Rainbow Stars run-through, in the forms of, you know, NES remakes, especially noticeable in NES Remakes 2, that Sonic needs to able to get into that game eventually, until in July, that this might actually take a lot of processing to deal with right there, especially noticeable it takes a long editing amount of time. So even though there's going to be plenty of jump cuts, especially noticeable with the forms of the first attempt of actually getting ourselves some of these Rainbow Star rankings, because yeah, these Rainbow Star rankings are probably the most challenging task you ever going to come across into this particular game. Especially noticeable in the entirety of NES remakes, the entire series. So, before we get this started by the forms of, you know, continuing through our discussion with these kinds of stuff like that, I'm actually going to be bringing, one of my, special treatments by the forms of a special guest. So, why don't you all introduce yourselves? Hi, Princess Peach here. So I thought to myself I might as well able to join with my handsome Mario here. So I thought I might as well able to actually see if how I can chat with him. Well, at least ever since during the likes of Christmas last year. Oh, yeah, that's as far as I'm aware for that piece. Because even then, when we get to the Rainbow Stars run through of the forms of NES remakes, especially noticeable how the fact that same applies for the sequel as well until, again, July, that Sonic needs to do, we'll actually bring up some of these guests in the forms of some of these plushy characters entering the actual background. So even I know, like for instance, Peach is gonna be joining with me in the forms of this particular video, and it's basically a girl princess routine special guest sessions, because even then, first we have ourselves Princess Peach on this particular video, as you probably guys already know, and the second video in the forms of the Rainbow Stars run through will have to be Princess Daisy, because I've already saved her ever since during the likes of back in 1989 in the forms of the original Game Boy in Super Mario Land. And also for the third and final part of the forms of NES remakes, I might decide to able to let Rosalina join with me, because even then, that might be actually that might as well give me some little bit more opportunities to able to actually get ourselves a lot of chats going. So even though that's as far as I can see how this will turn out. Yeah, as far as I'm aware for that point, but Alright, so I've heard there are some great things coming out about it. Oh, I got Chip in, so that's pretty sweet. So yeah, but in forms of some of these challenges that I've recently managed to go through, some of these missions can take a little bit quicker, while at the same time it might take a little bit long time to able to actually complete them, just because there are some mission objectives that you have to deal with. For a specific amount of time that you would able to actually do with a perfect run through, because if you made one simple mistake, like for instance, I managed to able to actually fail twice in the forms of the second section. Well, luckily though, but in forms of the heart stalking missions, but in forms of this particular stage, for instance, thankfully though, the timer doesn't carry on until whenever you're able to actually restart that section. So that's a pretty good thing to able to notice that from the start. So yeah, I think that pretty much does it, but in forms of golf. So now we move on to Clu Clu Land, aka I would still classify for saying the most awkward game to control with, because I swear to God, there are a few times I'm able to actually try and turn myself, but the game doesn't seem to actually like me as much as far as controlling stuff goes. Is it just me, Mario, or is it that particular you know, gems that almost reminds me like rubies, but in forms of the Legend of Zelda? Well, that was before when the Legend of Zelda exists, Princess Peach. Oh yeah, for the actual currencies to able to buy from any other items for that particular franchise goes. Now I've heard there are some plenty of E3 2018 leaks or rumors out there. Apparently they're trying to be actually going to be making the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD on the Nintendo Switch, just to get the functions of the Joy-Cons themselves. Sorry. How the fact that will makes it a little bit work, but in forms of how motion controls work, and in forms of how the fact that, well, I heard they in enjoying the likes of the original Nintendo Wii version, that back in during the likes of E3 2010, that Shigeru Miyamoto did manage to able to showcase the forms of how the motion controls worked out, but I don't feel bad about him, because even I know that he did pretty well though, at least in my opinion though, for anyway, because I really do enjoy Skyward Sword on the Nintendo Wii after all for me. I know some people seem to actually have their different amount of opinions, but usually I quite enjoy it by the forms of how aesthetically pleasing it looks. I know sure it's a bit more outdated now because it's easy forms of Nintendo Wii, and especially noticeable that Skyward Sword came out in 2011 at this point, so at least expecting it might be a good chance to able to actually get ourselves a Nintendo Switch re-release so that they can actually update the visuals for quite a bit, maybe upscale the textures a little bit more, especially noticeable by the forms of 1080p, and I would seem to say classified by the forms of no load times and all that stuff, which has always been you know, apparent by all that stuff, especially noticeable with these ports or remakes attempt to do that every now and then. Yeah, I could expect it so, because you know how the fact that it involves of, you know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is essentially a port to the forms of Mario Kart 8 on Nintendo Wii U, which basically it does the exact same game, except they actually add in new additions throughout, like new characters and all that stuff. Yeah, that's exactly true, Peach. That's exactly true. So yeah, that challenge right there can get really ridiculously challenging to me though, because No matter what though, again, how many times I was going ridiculously fast, and it's way too hard to control to able to actually turn Clu Clu into different directions, which even I know, that kind of feels a little bit more off-putting for me though. But this challenge, on the other hand, it's really understatement my welcome, because even then, no. That if I made one simple mistake with all these wrong turns and all that stuff, that just always irritates me if I'm able to actually miss on something. Well, thankfully though, I've managed to got there in the end though, so that's a good thing. So yeah, I'm actually really excited for the forms of E3 2018 at this point, because even then, can't wait to see how the fact that with these new games are about to be announced, just like how it does in 2017. Yeah, 2017 E3, when it comes to Nintendo, did seriously rocks, especially noticeable by the forms of surprising surprising announcements by the forms of Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, by the forms of Nintendo and Ubisoft managed to get ourselves a little bit of a more crossover for once. And especially noticeable by the forms of the amazing trailer at the end of the forms of Super Mario Odyssey, which is really awesome even to this day. And even especially noticeable with Metroid Prime 4 teaser announcement. And what else is amazing about this? I think it might be something to do with I really don't know actually, because granted, it's been a long time since I actually just managed to able to... Oh, I get it now. The Mario & Luigi, Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions on Nintendo 3DS. Yeah, despite the fact it was actually a little bit more of a remake of the Game Boy Advance installment, but even then, though, like, update the visuals for quite some time. And, yeah, as far as I can really say about this here. So, anyway, can't wait to see how the fact that when the new Smash Bros. Game on the Nintendo Switch is going to be named, as far as the actual final name of the game could be. Especially noticeable how the fact that we don't know if it's either going to be a real new installment or the just a simple port of the Wii U / 3DS versions. Well, technically, but it forms of how the fact that between the 3DS Smash Bros. 4, and especially noticeable with Super Smash Bros. 4 the Wii U, is that I've heard from Mario Wikipedia that, normally, whatever we did try to say before, how the fact that Smash Bros. For the Wii U and the 3DS were both on a 4th entry in the series, well, it turns out we're wrong about that, because even then, let's just say, for instance, for example, in the forms of the original Smash Bros. Super Smash Bros. Game, obviously it already came out in the forms of, 1999 on Nintendo 64, and that was the first game in the series. And in the second game, they actually did release for Super Smash Bros., and that was the forms of Super Smash Bros. Melee. And third entry is the forms of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and which came out in 2008, which I can't believe that game is now 10 years old at that point. Yeah, I must admit though, especially noticeable for Japan and North America. Well, not yet for our country though, in the forms of UK though, because we've only got about 2 months left until the 10th year of the forms of Super Smash Bros. Brawl release in the forms of the UK version. I understand about that. So anyways though, as you can tell that I've managed to able to complete through 3 games so far by the forms of the Rainbow Banner. So that means we can able to actually move on to the next game in the lineup, and that's the forms of Excitebike. As far as Clu Clu Land is concerned, in that particular first run through I've gone through from my main playthrough of NES remakes, I haven't got any single regular Rainbow 3 stars, which even then, that was entirely unbelievable for me, because is it probably just me, or is I haven't get used to with the controls, because even then, or the actual main mechanics. But I digress though, so now we move on to the Excitebike. As far as I'm aware, this is the only game that I've actually got, the only stage I actually got the Rainbow Stars from, to be more exactly throughout, is the forms of, I would say, Stage 2, because even though that's the only stage I actually only got the Rainbow Stars from, because as for the rest, I completely doesn't have any of these Rainbow Stars, unfortunately, because maybe it's probably because of how the fact that I wasn't paying too much attention of the B button how to able to actually work on with, or maybe it's especially noticeable by the forms of, the temperature bar you're gonna be seeing on that particular bottom part of the screen. you got to watch out for that, because if you manage to able to actually let the speed bar go all the way to red, this means you're able to actually worn out for a few seconds, which even then, I'm presuming it did actually waste about 3 seconds or so, which even then, that can get a lot of potential as far as, oh, okay, it's turbo right there, okay. Need to get used to that name. Yeah, you probably need to learn some of these more educational moments there, but I'm just saying. Yeah, no, Peach. I know you still love me, but even then, that's as far as I can say. So, anyway, what's your, feelings of the forms of how the fact that, whenever you're trying to think about trying to get this game finished, and, what's the next set of Let's Plays, or current Let's Plays that most of these, our friends managed to able to tackle through next? The truth is, Peach, Duffy needs to still get back onto Sonic Unleashed for the Xbox 360 version / PlayStation 3, eventually whenever I finish this particular Let's Play first, before he managed to get back into it. And, also the next Kirby game Let's Play should be up into the forms of the 10th of May. It's gonna be, Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards for the Nintendo 64. And especially noticeable by the forms of, I think that's about it when it comes to, the only May playthrough we're going to be doing through in the forms of the May month, but that's as far as we can go through at the moment. Yeah, at least as far as I might as well say that much until now. So, yeah, back to what I was saying by the forms of the Super Smash Bros. When it comes to the actual timeline between release dates, or in this case some of these releases by the forms of every single series, for Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS, apparently the 3DS version of Smash Bros. Is the 4th entry of the actual series, but also the Wii U version was actually the 5th installment, because even then, because again, if you actually look up on the Mario Wiki websites, then you would understand of how the fact that what the actual premises of the forms of which installments which, but in forms of not only for both the Wii U and the 3DS, but it's also because of how the fact that you need to be able to realize what the actual purpose of the which installment is actually first or not. So yeah, that makes it pretty much confusion aside from that, because even then, although it's just the exact same amount of character lineup, and some of these stages can be quite significantly different between both the Wii U and the 3DS version because of the hardware of the Wii U and short limitations of the forms of the 3DS version, and you know, you get the idea what this particular system will go. But even then though, Peach, we'll still know if how the fact that with the next Smash Bros. Game will be either a port to these two Smash Bros. Games for both the 3DS or the Wii U, or is this simply a new Smash Bros. Game? Because as far as I've noticed something, I'm assuming that this might actually be the next installment of Smash Bros. I'm pretty sure that it is, but in forms of the new main theme or something like that, or perhaps it's maybe because of, you know, Link got himself the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild outfit for him. So I think that's why it makes a little bit of suggestions there. So, by the way, we're actually on the Excitebike still, as far as you might as well see on screen continuously. This challenge is by far the toughest one out of the bunch because, well, not only do you have to able to actually just to be good at this particular racing course, and by the way, there's something worth mentioning is that every single challenges always keep on using the exact same courses between each other, like the forms of there's only one course selected in the forms of this particular task, and that's about it. There's no course 2, no course 3. It's just basically course number 1 every single missions at a time, which it sure is a bit strange. But not only do you have to actually, you know, keep an eye on the actual track layout in the forms of this particular course alone, but also you need to watch over for your, you know, turbo meter, or even especially noticeable how differently the AI can be. Because even though the AI in this game can get really damn random at times, which even though sometimes I might as well get myself wrecked myself by the forms of, you know, random pattern AI. I gotta say that much until now. So yeah, as you can see, I've managed to get myself all 3 of these rainbow stars on that stage. That particular mission challenge can get really damn difficult at times, most likely because of how the fact that you need to be perfect on that specific challenges like this, and the next challenge right there is to actually complete a lap of track 1 without crashing. So This one can also be kind of difficult because again, it all depends on the random AI patterns right there, because you can't really tell. The AI can go exactly the same every time you actually repeat for this particular challenge all the time, so it just all goes off from randomly. Yeah, I could get the idea, because even then, that can really screw you over at one point or another, and yeah, it might actually cause some of your screwage if you manage to keep on getting hit most of the time, which even then, must have felt really bad for that point. Yeah, no, Peach, I definitely noticed that. So anyways, now we move on to the last stage, in the forms of the Excitebike. We're able to not only deal with that particular game for a final time for our YouTube channel, but also because of how the fact that we're going through, I'm actually going to be going through, rather, is to go after for the forms of all 3 of those Rainbow Star rankings. So, I definitely know there's a YouTuber out there, but in forms of Pack Attack, something else, but in forms of that particular YouTube channel, you should definitely go ahead and recommend that YouTube channel, because he is pretty much a gauntlet of the forms of how the fact that when it comes to video gaming in mind, he pretty much dominates it for every single perfect run-throughs, excluding the likes of the first thing against the computer opponents, but in forms of, let's just say for example, in the Mario Party series, normally he actually did manage to go through every single minigames, even some boards especially, in the forms of, you know, the highest computer opponent's difficulty when it comes to able to winning everything throughout. Yeah, I can understand for that appreciation, but hey, at least you managed to able to accomplish the, Excitebike, as you can see here. Because yes, now we pretty much, I've pretty much gone through 4 games in a row when it comes to Rainbow Stars run-through, so now we're moving on to the next game. So, yeah, so there's only about like 9 Rainbow Stars I've actually missed out, but in forms of the Excitebike game. So, now we move on to Balloon Fight. So, as far as Balloon Fight is concerned, it might be pretty tricky in some areas because of how the fact that I keep on bumping into walls every time, which even I know, you can definitely tell why when we actually get into the later stages when it comes to getting the Rainbow Star rankings, but normally that's how you can go for that point. So, another thing I'd like to point out is that I was super excited, but in forms of previous few days ago, is the fact that recently that Sega has just announced that Sonic Mania Plus will be actually going to sell not only the actual trailer, which it did happen by the forms of a couple of days ago, well, to be more specifically, I was classified for 3 days ago. So even though not only does it get us a brand new trailer, and I accidentally died there, but hey, dying it doesn't bother me, because even though it cuts directly to clear, which even then, I did not expect to see how this will turned out to be, but anyway. Yeah, for Sonic Mania Plus, you know, not only does it get us a brand new trailer or anything like that, but as far as we actually saw the actual new trailer of Sonic Mania Plus, it turns out that that particular opening scene, it almost feels very similar to how it does in about last year. That normally Sonic Mania actually already got itself the forms of you know, the previous trailer ago, but it forms of in 2017. That normally in that trailer in about a year ago almost, that it always showcased off Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, including the likes of the returning Stardust Speedway zone ever since Sonic CD, and that's all you can get. But as far as I've noticed is that this time around though, Mighty the Armadillo, especially with Ray the Squirrel, managed to now finally make their appearance ever since joining back in 1993 in new forms of Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog arcade game. Well, technically Mighty the Armadillo since body forms of 1995 in new forms of Knuckles Chaotix, because that was the last time in new forms of the Sonic game that we've actually managed to see him ever since Knuckles Chaotix, because even then, well, despite that Sonic wasn't there in any forms of that game until when you get all 6 of these Chaos Rings, which are basically equivalent to Time Stones and Chaos Emeralds between, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog and all the other stuff, but normally as far as you can get from that point right there. So anyways, now we move on to the final challenge in the forms of Balloon Fight, and that's the forms of pop all 20 balloons. So, Yeah, this means we refuse to able to miss any of them. So this could be an ultimate challenge here. So yeah, not only for the actual purpose of the forms of both Ray the Squirrel and especially noticeable with Mighty the Armadillo is actually made their appearance as the forms of the animate style, but it's also because they actually finally got themselves a release date of the forms of Sonic Mania Plus. Originally they were trying to state it by the forms of how the fact that they're going to be releasing that particular version of that game, or the Plus edition of Sonic Mania, we're about to be releasing at some point in summer. Well, it turns out we've already got ourselves a release date coming over, but in forms of, I would classify for saying releasing until the 17th of July, which is about almost a year old of the original version of Sonic Mania. And also, as far as I realized about something, is that, you know, they're actually going to be bringing some more updates of the forms of competition mode, but now they actually expand upon 4 players instead of the usual 2, unlike how it does in the forms of, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and especially noticeable with, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 Knuckles in competition mode. Or, for this matter, for though, Peach is the forms of how the fact that you can now actually able to now anticipate 4 players in, Sonic Mania Plus. And also, as far as I've realized about something, basically, that, I mean, Sonic Mania Plus, another new things they actually added in is the forms of, according to the Japanese magazine, by the forms of a couple of moments ago, they actually did manage to release, by the forms of, they actually have some new images of the forms of, Sonic Mania Plus, which we did have not only, I would classify for a new type of mechanic, but also because we actually come across into a returning zone ever since Sonic the Hedgehog 3, at least as far as the actual Angel Island zone. So, yeah, because we've already technically saw Angel Island, but that was the only parts they actually introduced that particular zone for the introduction to that game. So, if that's the case, then we're probably now going to be finally experiencing the actual Angel Island level. So yeah, that's pretty amazing. And also, the same applies to how it does it, but it forms of the day and night system, which is really cool, which kind of does the exact same way as how it does in the forms of, well, Mario Party 2, and especially noticeable in Sonic Unleashed, and even especially noticeable by the forms of Mario Party 6. So, at least thankfully though, that classic Sonic does not turn into a werehog, quite frankly, because if it does, then it will be a little bit more of a paradox statement, as far as you might be aware. And I was 6 points off by getting this next stamp, by the way, for that point. Which, I must admit that I wasn't really sure if I'm able to actually manage to come across into that situation. I was like, I was few points off from not getting that next set of stamps. And by the way, if you probably did not know already, I'm actually able to actually got myself my next new stamp, but it's basically an Obian Champion stamp. But, as long as I managed to get myself my new stamp, I also got another one by the forms of the Goma from the Legend of Zelda series. Yeah, because, you know, Goma's weakness is the forms of the bow and arrow, because that way it deals the damage by the forms of the bow and arrow itself, so pretty amazing to the eye. So anyways though, let's go ahead and deal with the 1-up challenge now, and we've got that from here. And of course, you can able to actually get yourselves a 1-up mushroom from this particular level. And of course, I won't able to walk further from... Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Some of these piranha plants, man, they always trying to pop out of nowhere as soon as I did not make any sort of contact lenses. But anyways though, oh yeah, I can't refuse to able to let the 1-up mushroom disappear, because if you manage to go off screen with that, you're able to actually have to do the entire objective again, which is not that fun if you ask me. But, hey, at least it's some consumption to list though, but okay, I think this moment of truth, and there we go. That concludes that particular challenge. Now, what am I doing? This is post-commentary, not just stuff sort of like, you know, just trying to able to actually concentrate on things, because even then, again, as I mentioned to you before, it took me a lot of editing work, but in forms of, not only the entire premise of the Rainbow Stars run-through, in the forms of some of these stages I've, did not achieve that much, but it's also because of how the fact that with the forms of certain failure attempts, and especially noticeable by the forms of successful attempts as well. So, at this point, I'm probably not going to be editing the failure montages because it just literally wastes my time. So if that's the case, then, you know. Okay, jump. Okay, good. So, naturally though, that this challenge might be kind of difficult sometimes, because if you miss leading with your jump, especially noticeable with that, the last section, all you have to do is basically you have to go jump about a gap between the actual block platform to the bottomless pit from above from it, but it's kind of tricky though if you ask me. Alright, so the next challenge here, this challenge might be slightly difficult because of, especially when you're trying to grind for those, you know, those darn rainbow stars. The more tricky about this is the fact that you need to be right on with that specific, timing requirements when it comes to not only avoiding those fireballs, or in this case, just plutterboos in general, but also you need to keep an eye on that particular point whenever you're trying to able to actually bypass Bowser completely. So, oh wow, that was really close, I guess you can tell right there. But as long as you're able to be faster enough, there's you, Peach. Oh yeah, my clothing is awfully different from what I used to wear. But, you know, normally ever since during the likes of Super Mario Bros. 2 for the, you know, Nintendo Entertainment System and all that stuff, your clothing is pretty much pink for this point. So, now we move on to revealing Bowser's secrets. Now, this challenge can be ridiculously difficult if you're actually able to get the, you know, the rainbow stars, because even then, though, as long as you be really ridiculously fast and able to actually keep spancing out those particular fireballs in order to actually see what the true purpose of Bowser's secret is. But, the difficult about this challenge when it comes to getting the rainbow stars form is the fact that if you manage to, run too fast or something like that, you might accidentally run into Bowser so easily, like this for instance. But even then though, that's not the only point about it, because even then though, thankfully though, this mission objective can actually force you to give you, just 6 hearts instead of the usual 3, because if it's 3, well, that'll be incredibly inconsistent if you say so for this much. Yeah, I'm gonna have to admit it. Alright, there we go, so we've already on to number 6 now, so... You know, as far as the actual, the challenges are concerned with the forms of Super Mario Bros., these are very simple and straightforward. But it's just how the fact that you need to be ridiculously fast to able to actually get ourselves a Rainbow Stars run through, because normally if you couldn't do it, then it's okay, because you can able to actually restart the entire objective again. Sure, it might take a while to actually get back into on things, but... it's just one of those things. It's just definitely one of those things. But anyway, so, as you can tell, I've got another set of rainbow stars, as you can see there. So that's pretty awesome indeed. And now we move on to the last 2 stages to classify for Rainbow Stars run through. Because normally in Super Mario Bros. Only has like, you know, 23 stages apiece. And anyways though, so back into what I was saying, but in forms of Sonic Mania Plus, that are about to be releasing until at some point in 17th of July, which not only but informs of the actual updated download, but it's also the physical release too. Which, I'm actually really excited for that, because even then I haven't really gotten a chance to play as Mighty the Armadillo for my very first time, because normally I didn't have myself my emulator to actually access to Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog arcade game, and also I didn't get my chance to play through Knuckles Chaotix by my own time, because the original cartridge version of the forms of Knuckles Chaotix is super disgustingly expensive, like almost £100 or something like that. I think this is mainly due to the poor sales of Sega's Mega... oh, I can't speak today. Sega's 32X add-on, because even then, it just makes it a little bit chunky and ridiculous as far as the actual design of it. Yeah, I will admit though, Peach, it is kind of ridiculous. So anyways though, now we move on to the last stage of the forms of Super Mario Bros. And that is to actually going through 11 segments, unlike how it does in the forms of the last bonus stage. I have to sit there and go through 44 sections on that one run through. Can't you see, Peach, how ridiculous some of these challenges were? Yeah, because even though it's kind of a multitasking. I'm actually gonna fall down there because normally I cannot able to stress that enough, or the reason why I'm gonna be falling down here is because, well, thankfully though, if you manage to make a simple mistake, and then if you manage to get to that certain point with that certain time count, granted, the timer doesn't show up drastically though, it just feels incredibly invisible. So we need to be able to actually make everything fast before you're able to think about it. So there we go, that concludes that. And now normally back in during the likes of my own run through, or in this case my original run through of this particular objective, Muddy Forms of the 6th section, normally I'm trying to do this in a normal way to be able to actually pass through brick blocks and all that stuff. But I found out the fastest method to do this is the forms of trying to able to get onto that moving platform and then would able to actually jump onto that invisible block. And that way I can able to actually climb up to the vine easily. So that's one hint I must able to actually learn from this for myself, because even though back in during the likes of a couple of months ago, I normally just did this in a normal way, because even then I'm not exactly sure what I was doing. But anyway, this particular part right there can get pretty tricky sometimes, because if you manage to able to stump onto the Koopa paratrooper right there, if you manage to able to jump at the wrong time, then you would able to fall off to your death, so you just have to stay sharp on that one. Yeah, it's kind of tricky and nitpicky at the same time throughout, but still. Okay then, so, I slipped. Although it's nothing like how it doesn't just slipped off Muddy Forms of Luigi's buttered greasy shoes or something like that, unlike, you know, any other 2D Mario games, like, you know, New Super Luigi U recently and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's a little bit of a conspiracy. Alright, now we move on to the last objective right there. Screw you, Hammer Brother, but you can run all the way to it until you get a mad dash, and then you would able to beat Super Mario Bros. Or even in this case, defeating Bowser is what it's named. So there we go, that concludes Super Mario Bros. So that was about 6 NES games to actually 100% it, but in forms of just trying to able to actually go through Rainbow Stars run through. So yeah, that's pretty tight. And now we move on to The Legend of Zelda now. So even then though, that I wish I was trying to do this in the corresponding order when it comes to release dates in mind, but I decided to do it as a shuffleware because normally there's other games that I'm most familiar with. So anyways, I'm probably not going to do all of the entire objectives in The Legend of Zelda, honestly, because we're not going to be here for quite a few moments. So yeah, I guess that was about it, but in forms of this particular discussion for this point today, because besides with Rainbow Star run-throughs I'm actually running through, and especially noticeable that Princess Peach did actually join me for this video. Granted, we didn't talk that much to each other, but we're just discussing of the forms of, you know, Sonic Mania Plus and all that stuff. In fact, I'm actually gonna have to reset this part, because normally with my bow and arrows hit detection can get really daunting at times. But anyway, so yeah, that was about it for this particular point, folks. So yeah, this is me, Mario, but in forms of the Maxi Toys, and then tune us next time, or to me next time, until we're able to continue to that tradition, but in forms of the Rainbow Stars, until we're able to actually hopefully try to complete the Legend of Zelda's, the rest of the challenges, and move on to Wrecking Crew, Ice Climber, and eventually the remake stages. So thank you, Peach, for able to actually join me for this video. I do appreciate it. Yeah, I might as well appreciate it for you, Mario, too. So yeah, love you, and I'll see you guys then until the next future points of our YouTube channel for this point, so okay then, so there you go, that concludes that stage, and I'll see you guys when we're able to finish The Legend of Zelda for Rainbow Stars run through. So this is me, Mario, and see you guys then. Later, fellas.